You'll learn 5 effective ways to study in this video for the Spanish DELE exam. These ways are based on a proven plan that helped me get this DELE certificate, and they're also based on research evidence. If you're new here, hola amigos, my name is Matthew. I used to work for Fluent Forever and was mentored by the American polyglot and best-selling author Gabe Weiner. Since then, I've branched out on my own and I realized I just love learning languages. So I'm here today because I've developed my own techniques and tools, and I'd love to share them with you and help you too. And if that's interesting to you, be sure to subscribe to this channel. So the DELE exams refer to the Spanish proficiency test run by the Instituto Cervantes, which is based in Madrid, Spain. The Instituto Cervantes is the official Spanish body that tries to promote the Spanish language worldwide, and it conducts these DELE Spanish tests. Now the DELE stands for the Diploma de Español como Lengua Extranjera. And this effectively means that it's a diploma for Spanish as a foreign language. These DELE exams are a great way to see what level you're actually at in Spanish, but for me, I actually wanted to do it as a way to motivate myself and at the same time to see if I really could achieve this level of Spanish fluency, which many linguists and language learners consider to be at least the B2 DELE level, which I achieved a certificate for. Now, the first time I actually did the DELE exam, I failed, and it was very painful, okay, to say the least. Failing is not fun. It's shocking and embarrassing and shameful, and it makes you really question whether the whole endeavor of learning Spanish is worth it. But after that tragedy, which for me it really was, I picked myself back up and I was determined to learn, to keep going. One of the things that I wanted to do the second time round to change my strategy was to focus on research, to find research, evidence-based methods that could propel me to the next level of my Spanish and to finally achieve this DELE B2 certificate. Now I'm going to share with you those 5 evidence-based methods or techniques that can help you have a clearer plan to achieve a Spanish DELE certificate like I did, and hopefully it helps you. 1. The importance of self-study. Now, if you want to study for the Spanish DELE exams, I strongly suggest that you consider self-study as an option. Don't just rely on Spanish classes or Spanish tutors or Spanish natives. A lot of the time in those Spanish classes, the attention will be on the teacher and perhaps even the other students. And you'll find that you yourself will not have much time to practice the language, nor will you have the time to immerse yourself in real life, authentic Spanish materials. Classes, of course, can be helpful, but you need to recognize that there needs to be time spent studying outside of classroom. And that's where self-study comes in, and why I strongly encourage you to consider being an independent Spanish language learner. So I say this as my opinion, but I actually want to show you the research. Research suggests that traditional classroom contact hours, such as the hours you spend in a Spanish classroom, may not be enough for you to take your Spanish to the next level. There's not enough time to do more sophisticated or high-level Spanish learning activities just within those classrooms. A study was done by the academic Batia Laufer from the University of Haifa, and she found a clear problem with relying too much on classroom contact hours, meaning relying just to learn Spanish within the classroom. She did a study of language learner students in various countries around the world, such as in Japan, in Israel, in Indonesia, as well as in Spain itself. She found that the average number of words learned by a student per hour of language instruction in a classroom were only a meager 2 to 3 words per hour. Now let's just do the maths on all this. If you did only 1 class of Spanish per week in a year, that would be around 50 hours of Spanish. Based on Batial Alpha's research then, if you only learned 2 words per class, then that would mean about 100 words of Spanish that you learned in that year. Or a maximum of 3 words per class, that would be around 150. So if you just rely on these Spanish classes to boost your Spanish, it's clear from the research and also from my own experience, it's just not enough. You need to take responsibility for your Spanish learning, and if you want to get better, 100 words is not going to cut it. If you think about an adult native speaker in English or in any other language, there are studies that show they know at least around 20,000 or more words in that language. So if you're learning only about 2 to 3 words per hour and only going to a Spanish class once a week, and that's all you're doing, that will not be enough. You will need, let's do the maths, 20,000 words divided by 100 words per year. If you did 1 hour per week of Spanish, I had to get my calculator out there. So 20,000 divided by 100 words per year, assuming you only studied a 1 hour Spanish class per week. So 20,000 divided by 100 is 200. 200 years it will take you to reach around 20,000. Okay, let's say because you don't want to reach a native speaker level, let's say you only want to reach half of that, 10,000. So it'll take you 100 years, okay? A human lifespan is below 100 years. Okay, let's just say you only want to learn 5,000 words. Hey, that's a good amount. 5,000, and even that will take you 50 years. So now let's just say you even just want to learn 1,000 words and you just rely on these Spanish class hours. If you only went to a Spanish class 1 hour a week and you want to learn 1,000 words, it'll take you 1,000 divided by 100 words. It would take you 10 years to learn those 1,000 words. It's clear. Spanish classroom hours are just not enough. Even if you doubled it to 2 hours or 5 hours, do you have the money to go to all of those hours? Maybe not. Do you have the time also? If you have a full-time job and you're trying to study part-time, it's probably not the case. And in my case, I actually studied Spanish part-time. I had a full-time job. I had family commitments. I had a relationship and social activities to balance my whole life. I couldn't spend the whole day learning Spanish. So you have to be effective and efficient. And according to the research, it's clear self-study truly is important and you need to be an independent Spanish learner. 2, grow your vocabulary. Now you've probably wondered yourself at some point, how many Spanish words do I really need to know? And I wondered about that too when I failed the first time with the Spanish DELE exam. I wondered, hey, was I actually lacking in the amount of vocab that I knew? And I was. Now let's talk about the research. Now James Milton, a linguistics professor at Swansea University in the United Kingdom, actually did the research to connect how many words does it take to reach a certain level in the Common European Framework Reference of Languages, or the CEFR. The CEFR is the standard framework that is used by different language bodies around the world, and the Instituto Cervantes and the DELE actually rely on the CEFR as a guide. And so his research is very useful to answer this question: how many words do you need to know to be fluent and pass the Spanish DELE exams? James Milton argues that students will need at least 1,500 words to get from the A1 to the A2 level in a foreign language. If you want to get fluent in a language, you need around 5,000 words to be fluent. If you want to reach the B2 level, like I did, where you can speak fluently in a number of different contexts, at the very least, around 5,000 words is what you need. Now, when he refers to words, he refers to lemmatized words. A lemmatized word means that you count one word for every variation of a given word. So in English, for example, a lemmatized word would be those that you see in an English dictionary, like the word run. You wouldn't include the words ran, running, runs as different separate words, but rather you would only include run as one word. So when James Milton talks about having to learn at least 5,000 words to get to fluency in a language and to pass your DELE exams at a fluent level, what he's saying is that you need to know thousands of words in their lemmatized form. Now, I know it sounds like a lot, but at least it gives you a clear goal for what you need to aim for. He's done the research, and I've read other research as well, and it really points to that roundabout number of the thousands of words you need to have mastered to reach fluency in a foreign language like Spanish. 3. Use flashcards effectively. Now, I mentioned you need to learn thousands of words or acquire them so that you can get fluent in Spanish, but there's some tools that you could use to help you get there more effectively. That's where flashcards come in. Studies show that using flashcards or other techniques like word lists can really help to boost your vocabulary in a foreign language like Spanish. Stuart Webb, a linguistics researcher from the University of Western Ontario in Canada, actually asked the question, how effective are intentional vocabulary activities? And he actually wrote a paper on this and did the research. He recognized that there certainly are different types of vocabulary learning activities, and it wasn't clear to him which ones were the most effective. So he analyzed all of the data of over 20 different studies of vocabulary learning. The results of his study showed that studying vocabulary with flashcards can result in much larger vocabulary knowledge and gains compared to other forms of vocabulary learning activities. So I read this research and I took this on board for my own Spanish DELE study. I recommend you incorporate digital flashcards in your regular study routine. This will ensure that you regularly review and you reinforce the words that you've learned. In my case, I like using the digital flashcard app Anki, and I made my own Spanish flashcards for them, even up to the 5,000 words, which I know again sounds like a lot, but I actually studied them. And I looked back on my cards and yeah, I actually went through a lot of words, but it did give me results. 4, increase your Spanish input with more reading and more listening. Now, I recognize when I was studying the flashcards that it wasn't enough. It was a great supplement, but it's also very useful to study Spanish by immersing yourself with Spanish native content. When you do this, you get to learn sentence structures and Spanish words more subconsciously and in a really enjoyable way. You learn also about the culture of Spain and Latin America, and some studies have shown that just by immersing and getting lots of input, you can drastically boost your Spanish proficiency. Stephen Krashen, the linguistics academic from the University of Southern California in the United States, put forward the input hypothesis, which supports this idea. Krashen's input hypothesis suggests that you can get better in a language when you expose yourself to reading and listening in Spanish at just above your current level. You get to understand what's going on in the authentic content, but at the same time, there are still a few words and grammar points that you don't know yet. But because you understand the majority of what's going on, you are then passively learning the new language material subconsciously. So when I was preparing for my Spanish DELE exams, I did just that. I increased the amount of listening and reading in Spanish that I did, and I suggest you do so too. Instead of watching movies in English, watch them in Spanish. Rather than listening to English music or podcasts or news, listen to them in Spanish. Do as much as you can with authentic Spanish content and enjoy that process, and you'll find that over time your Spanish will improve because your brain will be working in the background processing all of that Spanish language information, and you'll be more familiar with Spanish sentence structures and words that you can then use later on. 5. Use speaking fluency techniques. One of the core pain points when I failed the Spanish DELE exam the first time round was my really bad speaking score of 39%. Yes, it's true, I got that score and I bombed. That's when I knew I had to check out the research and evidence on the best way to improve my speaking fluency and interact well with Spanish native speakers. I stumbled upon the studies by the linguistics researcher Paul Nation. He's from the Victoria University of Wellington in New Zealand, and he proposed that language learners like you should try and use these 4-minute to 2-minute timed talks as a way to improve your speaking fluency. Paul Nation found that when you do these kind of 2 to 4 minute timed speeches, you're then able to increase your speed of speaking, which means you speak a lot more fluently. You're also able to decrease the amount of hesitations, like saying the ums and ahs or awkward pauses. But at the same time, you can even increase the amount of accuracy that you have in your grammar, and even the complexity, how advanced your grammar is. So with that research behind me, I then went about to implement these 2 to 4 minute speaking fluency practice activities, and I tried it out for myself. I even made my own personal tool to help me with speaking practice in the same way that Paul Nation suggests, and I made it for myself at first, but I'd love to give it to you for free. So check out the link in the description so that you can access that tool and practice speaking in these 2 to 4 minute timed speeches, which can help you prepare and study for the DELE exam, because the tool actually shows you random pictures and gives you prompts to talk about, which you'll have to also do during the oral speaking section of the DELE exam. And I know I've done it twice already. So if you use these 5 strategies that are based on evidence from linguistics researchers around the world, as well as my own proven plan that I used that helped me achieve the DELE certificate myself, then I think you will get more confidence and you'll get more clarity about what you need to do next so that you can pass the Spanish DELE exam. And I truly wish you good luck with your exams. If you want to check out more of my Spanish language journey, be sure to check out these videos on my channel.